More than 200 nations exist on this planet, and according to Donald Trump, every single one of them needs to pay up if they want to keep doing business with the United States. At a certain point over the next week and a half, Trump recently told reporters, "We're going to send out a letter. We'll just tell them what they have to pay." It sounds decisive. It sounds like power. But beneath the surface, something else is happening, something far less triumphant. The former president turned current leader of the free world promised the world a new era of American dominance through deal-making. He vowed to rewrite global trade in record time. He claimed victory after victory. And yet, as the calendar pages turn and deadlines loom, the evidence tells a very different story. More than 200 countries remain unsigned. Allies are frustrated. Enemies are silent. And the so-called deals that have been announced? Most of them exist only on paper, if they exist at all. So what's really happening behind the bold headlines and confident press conferences? Let's unpack the reality. When Donald Trump launched his aggressive tariff strategy, he didn't just threaten penalties. He made a historic promise. His administration, he declared, would deliver 90 trade agreements in 90 days. It was a pledge repeated at rallies, shared across social media, and echoed by his most loyal advisors. To supporters, it sounded like exactly what America needed: bold, decisive leadership that would bring the world to the negotiating table and restore American economic supremacy. To skeptics, it sounded like fantasy. Now, with the 90-day window nearly closed, the results are in, and they are impossible to spin. Not one complete, legally binding trade agreement has been finalized. Not one. What the administration is calling deals are, in reality, memoranda of understanding. Early-stage frameworks that outline intentions but carry no legal weight. These are documents that signal the beginning of negotiations, not the end. They are starting points, not finish lines. And yet Trump's team has been presenting them as victories. It's a PR strategy, not a policy achievement. And the gap between rhetoric and reality is widening by the day. With only 10 days remaining before Trump's self-imposed deadline, reports indicate that the administration has perhaps one or two preliminary agreements in place, out of nearly 200 potential partners. So the question becomes unavoidable. If the United States is so eager to make deals, why is the rest of the world keeping its distance? One of Trump's most prominent claims involved China. He announced to the world that he had reached a major agreement with President Xi Jinping, a breakthrough that would stabilize trade relations after years of economic warfare. "We made a deal with China," Trump said confidently. "Done. Signed. Finished." Except there was one glaring problem. President Xi Jinping never confirmed it. Chinese officials have remained conspicuously silent. No formal statement has been issued. No document has been signed. No public acknowledgement has been made. Even Trump himself admitted that negotiating with Xi was difficult. But the silence from Beijing goes beyond difficulty. It suggests something more calculated. Some analysts believe China is employing a deliberate strategy: let Trump make all the noise, but refuse to validate his claims. By staying silent, China avoids responsibility while simultaneously undermining Trump's credibility. If there's no deal, Trump looks like he fabricated one. If there is a deal, China holds all the cards because it hasn't committed to anything publicly. It's a form of diplomatic judo, using Trump's own momentum against him. Meanwhile, months into this tariff battle, businesses on both sides of the Pacific remain paralyzed. From automotive parts manufacturers to agricultural exporters, no one knows what the rules will be tomorrow. Uncertainty, not stability, has become the new normal. And back in Washington, even Trump's closest allies are starting to acknowledge the truth. Mark Short, Trump's former legislative affairs director, put it bluntly: "What we have at this point are general frameworks from only 2 countries out of about 200 nations in the world. These are the same frameworks that Peter Navarro, Trump's trade advisor, once promised would become 90 deals in 90 days. It's now clear that promise will not be kept. Here's what actually happened. Trump started a trade war. He imposed tariffs on allies and adversaries alike. He disrupted global supply chains, rattled financial markets, and created widespread anxiety across industries, from Midwest farmers to Wall Street executives. Then, when the economic consequences became impossible to ignore, he began scrambling for agreements, any agreements that could be repackaged as wins. The incomplete frameworks his team is now celebrating, they're not strategic victories, they're damage control. The question is whether this represents a coherent strategy or simply desperation disguised as deal-making. The answer becomes clearer when you examine Trump's own behavior. He is fixated on July 9th, the artificial deadline his administration created to deliver results. On that date, Trump says, the pause on penalties will end. Countries that haven't signed agreements will face tariffs as high as 50%. In a recent Fox News interview, Trump announced that letters would soon be mailed to foreign governments. His message, as he described it: "Congratulations, you now have the privilege of trading with us. Now you're going to pay 25% or 35% or 50%. To Trump, it's leverage, a power move. But to the rest of the world, it feels like extortion dressed up as diplomacy. And that's what has shocked America's traditional allies. They've watched Trump issue threats before, only to back down later. In 2018, he threatened Europe with automobile tariffs, then retreated. With China, he claimed a major agreement, then it collapsed. Many expected this situation to follow the same pattern, but Trump is insisting this time is different. What makes it more troubling is his own admission. There are 200 countries, and it's impossible to negotiate with all of them. Yet he's demanding that they all make deals or face punishment. So what happens to the 180 nations he hasn't even spoken with? Do they all get penalized by default? The letters Trump is preparing aren't just firm, they're provocative. And honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. The global economy is already fragile. Inflation is squeezing consumers and businesses worldwide. Supply chains haven't fully recovered from pandemic disruptions. And now the United States, which is supposed to provide stability and leadership, is, well, threatening to ignite a new crisis. Trump may believe this kind of pressure forces compliance, but in practice, it's pushing countries away. American allies, Canada, Germany, Japan, South Korea, are losing patience. Some are exploring trade agreements that exclude the United States entirely. Others are preparing retaliatory tariffs of their own. If that happens, ordinary Americans will feel the consequences. Prices will rise, jobs could vanish, farmers could lose export markets, and all of it will stem from a desire to appear strong rather than be effective. But why the rush? Trade agreements of this scale typically take months, even years, to negotiate. So what's driving the urgency? The truth is, Trump isn't just negotiating with foreign governments. He's negotiating with Wall Street, the Federal Reserve, and most critically, his own voter base. His entire political identity rests on being the ultimate dealmaker. That image is now under threat. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, a former hedge fund executive, has already hinted that the July deadline might need to be extended. But, he admits, that decision rests with Trump. Bessent's reasoning? Many of the 18 countries still in talks with the United States are negotiating in good faith, meaning they're nowhere close to final agreements. This gap between public confidence and private chaos has become the defining characteristic of Trump's trade policy. And there's a pattern worth noting. Foreign governments have learned that if they simply stall long enough, Trump's domestic political pressures will force him to compromise. As Mark Short observed, countries now understand that Trump is sensitive to stock market volatility and economic anxiety. In other words, the president's greatest negotiating weakness is his obsession with appearing strong. If Trump fails to deliver by July, the consequences could be severe. Wall Street could tumble, the dollar could weaken, interest rates might spike. And Trump's 2026 midterm election strategy, built entirely on claims of economic genius, could collapse. Some economists are already warning of a nightmare scenario, a trade-induced recession disguised as policy success. Consider for a moment the United Kingdom deal as a case study. Trump announced it as his first major victory, a historic agreement supposedly secured through strength and savvy negotiation. But when analysts actually examined the details, they discovered something pretty embarrassing. It wasn't even a trade deal at all. It was just a temporary framework that simply allowed existing trade flows to continue while formal negotiations proceeded. No new benefits, no reduced tariffs, no competitive advantages. In reality, it was essentially an agreement to just keep talking. British officials were quick to clarify that this was not a final deal. Behind closed doors, UK diplomats are reportedly frustrated. They worry that the United States is attempting to impose unfair terms that could damage British industries. Meanwhile, inside the White House, tensions are escalating. Scott Bessent, Trump's top trade advisor, is under immense pressure. When he joined the administration, many viewed him as a financial expert who could bring discipline to trade policy. But now, as the 90-day promise crumbles, Bessent is being blamed. Reports suggest that Bessent never supported the 90 deals plan. He warned that it was unrealistic and potentially damaging. Trump ignored the advice and made the promise anyway. Now, with no major agreements to show and the world refusing to cooperate, Trump's team is turning on itself. Sources indicate that Bessent is frustrated and exhausted. Some speculate he may resign before he's forced out. Rather than argue with Trump, most countries are choosing a quieter, more decisive path. They're simply moving on. While Trump chases headlines with deals that never materialize, the rest of the world is forming genuine, long-term partnerships without the United States. The European Union is deepening economic ties with South Korea and India through digital and agricultural agreements. In Asia, the regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership moves forward entirely without American participation. Even America's closest neighbors, Canada and Mexico, are now in discussions with Japan and the European Union, charting a future that doesn't depend on Washington's cooperation. The message is unmistakable. America is no longer viewed as a reliable trade partner. And rather than wait indefinitely for deals that may never come, other nations are building new systems that don't require American approval. Trump's threats no longer intimidate. His promises no longer persuade. This shift is producing real, tangible consequences. Countries that once depended on access to the American market are now grappling with canceled contracts and sudden tariff shocks. Smaller nations that built export infrastructure specifically for American buyers are left in economic limbo. Meanwhile, multinational corporations are relocating supply chains out of the United States, seeking more predictable environments elsewhere. In attempting to force trade back to American shores, Trump has made the United States look risky, erratic, and increasingly isolated. Africa is constructing its own continent-wide free trade zone. Latin America is strengthening ties with China. In Asia, intra-regional trade is expanding, and the United States is no longer essential to the process. As American influence fades, a new global order is quietly emerging, and it may not need American leadership. Even America's strongest allies are beginning to distance themselves. Japan, Canada, South Korea, Australia, longtime partners, are now openly expressing concern over Trump's hostile approach. These aren't just diplomatic protests. They reflect genuine economic harm spanning industries from steel to dairy to digital services. For a time, corporate America stayed quiet, hoping the turbulence would pass. But now, even the business community is speaking out. Trade associations, investment leaders, and major CEOs are demanding the one thing the Trump agenda hasn't delivered: stability. Large corporations are freezing new investments, uncertain about what tariffs or regulations will emerge next. Costs are climbing. Supply chains are fragmenting. International partners are withdrawing. Even some CEOs who initially supported Trump are privately warning that this chaos could damage quarterly earnings and undermine long-term strategic planning. The world is watching, markets are watching, and the clock is ticking. While Donald Trump focuses on projecting strength, the world is building something new. And this time, it doesn't need America at the center. The deal-maker promised 90 deals in 90 days. What he delivered was confusion, instability, and a planet that's learning to operate without him. The question is no longer whether Trump can make deals. The question is whether the world still wants to. And if the silence from Beijing, the frustration in London, and the partnerships forming without Washington are any indication, the answer may already be clear.